Welcome everyone. I am Arda from the IAS Turkey office. I also work as the technical coordinator in the IAS USA office. So if you want to contact us, you can also get in touch with me with your questions and the details, like my colleagues said. Okay, for our very first screen today, I will try to explain about the system from the sales, purchase, and the MRP processes. So at the very beginning, I will start with our presentation screen, which we called Operation Flow Map in caniasERP. As my colleague John mentioned on the previous slides, we have more than 40 modules which are integrated to each other in our system. As you can see, in one map, we can see more than 30 modules which are related to each other into one screen. What the screen does is allowing you to access all operations in each module. As you can see, human resources, finance, sales, production, inventory, MRP, and the purchase are our main modules, and they have small supporting modules. And on the very top of the screen, we have the basis module, which supports the main information to each module. I would like to give some more information about our modules. For example, when you click one of the modules, they provide you more than 10 or 11 operations which you can proceed. As you can see, in only one sales module, you can go with the sales management, pricing strategies, or if you have retails and the export process, you can go with those details. When you go one of those operations, like the sales management, you can see the document flow from offer to order, order to delivery, delivery to invoice, and up to the finance process. Also, on the vertical line, you can see the inventory and the purchase relation, which is also related with our sales process. By clicking one of those processes, you can see more than 2 or 3 sub-processes. And what those processes does, ask you what operation you want to do with that process. For example, if you want to go to details of the offer create, but you don't know how to do that, you can click the help button next to the process, and the system will display you the explanation screen with the YouTube link to our specific process. If you want to watch it, you can use it, then go back to the process and finalize it. So this is the main part of our user experience, because all the processes available are input into that system. This is one of our sample customers which is going with those processes, but regarding to your operational needs, this system, these operations can be customized and manipulated if you want, or it can be changed by our technical consultants. So for the next part of the demo, as Ray mentioned in the very first beginning, we will have 3 different operations in 3 different modules. The very first will be our sales employee, which will go with the sales order and the sales information. On the second part, we will go with the MRP process, which will run by a planning employee. And this employee will analyze the MRP results, supply and demand, net change process, requisitions, plans, and orders. On the very final step, we will go with the purchasing process, and in that process, our purchasing department employee will start with the requisitions, offer request, purchase information, purchase order, invoices, and PPV analysis, and the order cost analysis information. So let's start with our process with the sales employee. As I mentioned, as a sales employee, I will start my process by clicking the sales button, then moving to the next step with the sales management. I will not bother you today with the details of inputting data. I will directly go with the real data which already put into our system. So on the normal order interface, I will use the order listing and will display you the order which are input into the system. I click start and I move to the next process. The system is listing me the orders I have. When I go to the details of that order, I can see that this is my product and this is the quantity I would like to sell. And this is the price. Our sales interface providing us a lot of more detail you can imagine. On the bottom right of the screen, as you can see, we have 3 different profit and loss information distributed step by step. So what system does in here, when you pick a product and put a price, on the background, it runs 2 or 3 different standard cost calculation regarding to your standard cost schemas. By that, it will calculate you that if you sell that material for that price, your profit and loss with the profit and cost calculation schema, your profit rate will be 28%. Or if you go with the second schema, your profit or loss rate will be 14%. If you change the price, as you can see, when you go to the lower to the price, the system providing you different profit and loss rates, which you can see, this is my minimum limit to sell. As you can see, on the second profit and loss calculation, I will go to the loss. So 200 is not a good price for me, therefore I have to increase my sales price. So with that, I will go to some details, and on the item details of my sales order, I have my simulation. What simulation does is running a small MRP and the capacity run at the background and providing us the results when you can produce that product or when you can provide the goods to your customer. So you have all access to the modules right directly from the sales interface. So before I go there, I would like to remind you something. As we mentioned before, all modules are integrated to each other. As you can see, we have an order number in here, and what's my expectation when I finalize my purchase information? I would like to see this order related to my purchase order. So the whole process will go step by step, and all the information will be transferred from sales order to MRP to requisition and to the order. So moving to the next step, I will run the process as the planning employee. I will go back to my very first prep screen in here, and before I go to the MRP process, I would like to remind you a really important thing. If you want to run MRP or the production process, you have to have a bill of material for their product. So that I will go to my bill of material module, and on the bill of material reports, I will show you a list of my products or the components I would like to produce. So from the interface, I pick my material, and when I go to the details, I can see the result of my bill of material. So to produce 1 piece of that product, I need to have 5 pieces of that raw material, 11 inches of that raw material, and a 0.8 pounds of that packing material. So what's my order? It was like 1,000 pieces. So when I run the process, the quantities will change regarding to my need. So what's my expectation in the MRP? I don't have that much materials in my stock. I don't have this product in my stock. So I have to purchase all the materials to produce that product. So the requisitions have to include those amount of data for me. After mentioning that, I will go back to my MRP interface and I will click MRP. On the very first screen, as a planning employee, I will use planning button and I will show you the Mrp Cockpit display of our module. As my colleagues mentioned in the previous slide, we have a cockpit screen for each of our modules, which allows the users to access all the data directly from one screen. Also, we have all our Prep 01 screen, which I mentioned in the very beginning of the presentation. It will also allow you to access all process regarding to your operations. So this is our Mrp Cockpit screen. What the screen does, on the left-hand side, we have the planning operations, and on the right-hand side, we will have the analysis side. So as a purchase employee or as a planning employee, on the left-hand side, you can change your planning policy or MRP procedure or pick a specific material with the different options to run MRP and see the results directly from one screen. So you can change your MRP procedure regarding to your reorder level or a deterministic method to calculate the results. You can pick it directly from that interface and make a run for your process. Also, if you know which product you want to produce, you can write your product directly in here, and with the options of BOM explode or the alternative material usage, which our system is allowing you to use, you can run an MRP and see the results. So for the next operation, we have MRP process and monitoring on the below of our MRP run process. So these are the one input and the three output of our process. Net change table is a big advantage in our MRP runs. All the documents you generated in your system, like a purchase order or the sales order, creates a net change information directly to the background of the MRP. What the system does is keeping the information during the data input. So when you want to run the MRP, it will not start from the scratch. It will have the necessary information, and instead of using SQL queries, the system will directly run from the net change interface. When you click the net change, you can see the list of all the net change items faced into the list. So we have 156 different net change information with those materials. On the second side, you will have running processes in the background, and the third one, you will go with the purchase requisitions, which are generated by the MRP run. So for the explosion level, stop level items, like our raw materials or the packing materials, the system will try to provide you purchase requisitions. Regarding to your information in your material cart, the system will provide you a target start date and a target end date for your purchases. With the help of that, it can provide you a proper production planning and scheduling. And the final output of our MRP run is the production plans, which the products I would like to produce with the help of MRP. So you can see the list of products or the semi-products in my system, which will be produced with the which requires to be produced as a result of MRP run. Going to the next step, on the right-hand side, we have the analysis side, and we will see with the run, this is our product which will be produced, and these are the raw materials. So as you can see, we have the MRP and the BOM level information in here, which means this is a primary requisition, and these three are the independent requisitions at the secondary level, because we explode our BOM, and with the explosion of the BOM, these material requirements has been generated automatically. We also have quick access buttons to our Mrp Match Analysis, but I will show those details on the next spread screens of our system. Okay, so I'm moving to my next step, to the Pred 01, and I will ask for a water break. So I go back to my Pred 01 screen, and by using the MRP and MRP results and analysis, I will show you some screens with the results of our MRP run. The very first is checking stock and requirement analysis. So when you click this button, the process will start and ask for the material which you want to analyze. When you click start, it will display you a screen which you can pick a material, and on the interface you can see the stock and the requirement analysis and their source of MRP run. So at the very beginning, we have the quantity of 0 of our product, and at the 22nd of June, we create a new sales order with the quantity of 1,000. So the system is telling me that to provide that material to your customer, you need to make a production order, which will be deadline at the 12th of October. So we don't have the material, we don't have the capacity to finalize it on the proper time. So the system is telling us your deadline will be around that date. If you provide the materials earlier, of course, you will finish the production much more earlier. Also, you can run this information for your raw materials in your system. As you can see right now, the requirement analysis has been changed a little bit, because on the next process I will show you, on the purchasing, I finished the purchasing process for my packing material. So the system is telling me that your initial stock is right now 860, and to make this production work, we make a virtual reservation with the quantity of 860. So this is our stock and requirement analysis for each material you run on the MRP. You also have quick access buttons to the MRP information, like MRP data, run MRP for the same material, and direct access to adjusted requisitions to your purchase module. Going back to the second screen of my MRP analysis, I will go with the source-based supply and demand documents. On that screen, I click Start, and my process has been started and displaying me a lot of information to analyze. What the system does, this is the screen for your supply and demand analysis. Each demand will match with the supply, so this system is displaying you the relation between the supply and the demand. It will show you the demanded quality and the supplied quantity. It will display you the demanded date and the supplied date and the relations with each other. So as you can see, we have all the results in here, which is being displayed right now. When you scroll right, you can see demanded quantity, supplied quantities, match quantities, demanded date, and supply date, and the material information as a list of MRP results. On that screen, we have the supply type and the demand type you want to analyze. You can pick the plan order as the supply type, and the demand type will be independent requisitions. And you can list only the relation between the independent requirement and the plan order with the MRP results. So I will move to the next report, which we call Analyzing Supply and Demand Documents. This is one of the key reports of our MRP run, because the system is showing us the excess of stock and the excess of supplies as a result. As you can see, if I run the report for one material, the system is displaying me the demanded quantity, supplied quantity, and the date information. But if I remove the criteria and search for everything, and I want to see the excess supply and the excess stock, which is really critical for the stock carry cost for quick running companies. As you can see, I can see my excess supply and the excess stock directly with the analysis of the MRP. This all information has been generated with the help of MRP, and the required parameters has been put into the system from the bus module with the material information. So this is another MRP result for us, and I will go to the next one, and I will show you one more report, which we call batch result for the MRP run. So with that, I will show you the results for the late inputs, initial stock, and the late outputs of our system. If I run that only for one material, of course the results will display me only one material, but if I want, I can run it for multiple materials, which I mentioned in my bill of material. So one of them is my products, and two others are my raw materials. As you can see, I have already purchased those packing materials, so the initial stock is 860. So I don't have any late inputs, or don't have any late outputs, or I don't have any late remaining, but I already have it in the stock, so it's 806 as late remaining. So I don't have future inputs, but I will have future outputs, because I will consume that to produce my materials. So this report is showing me the details of my stock acceptance and the output throughout the MRP process as a forecast. And I will go back to my MRP interface. So with those results, I can directly access to my production order creation or the purchase order creation. But as a planning employee, production or purchase order is not my job, but production order can be. So I can access the production order interface, and with the help of MRP, I created some production orders, production plans. So I can access those production plans and convert them directly to production orders with the help of those processes. As a final step in the MRP process, I would like to display you one more screen, which is really important for us as a new concept of the demand forecasting for our product. I will access this interface from the left-hand side, and I will show the results of our run. So this is the results of our demand forecasting run. As you can see, I picked a product and I have my trend from the previous year. So regarding to my previous year parameters and the seasonal parameters, I can run a demand forecasting for each date in my system. So the MRP will automatically generate purchase requisitions and the plan orders. So I will not miss any requirement date on my system. So this is a demand forecasting analysis detail, which I would like to show you from the interface. So as a sales and the purchase employee, we finished our process. Our final step will go as a purchase department employee. So my next module will be the purchase module. I click the purchase. As you can see, we have 11 different operations which we can go from the purchase interface. And the very first screen is the purchase management. As we remember from the sales interface, this is the document flow from the beginning to the end of a purchase process. So the very first screen I would like to show you is the purchase requisitions. So when I click the operation, and they are listing me the processes which I can go. From the interface, I go to listing purchase requisitions and list all the available purchase requisition in my system. Those requisitions can be generated directly from the MRP run, or these also can be generated with the help of the users, because sometimes the user may ask for additional purchases and you want to combine them to buy in bulk and minimize your cost of your purchase. So the requisitions can be generated with two different sources. One of them is MRP and the other is the user. As you can see, we have a product we have a raw material which is generated by the MRP, and the target start dates has already been assigned by the MRP, and the quantity has been decided with the help of MRP. And when you go, it will display you the delivery date, estimated delivery date, of course, not the actual, because we already input that value into our system. So when you start the plan at the 22nd of June, the planned arrival date will be 17th of July. The MRP also calculating those information directly with the help of the parameters in the material basic. So with the help of those requisitions, I can start the purchase process to my vendors, because this is my very first time I purchase those materials, so I don't know the prices. I make a search and I notice I have 3 vendors which can sell me those goods. I go to offer request, and with the help of offer request interface, I can list all the offer requests in my system and see the details of my offer request. When I go to details, I know that I would like to purchase that packing material, but from which vendors? From the vendor interface, I pick 3 different vendors at the different locations of the United States. So I will send them a purchase offer document and wait for them to send me back the prices which I want to input into my system. So this is our offer request interface, and you can directly send emails from that interface to your vendors, if you have the emails, of course. Going back to my purchase management interface, and I'm going to the purchase information. So this is another transaction for me, and I will list the purchase information from my system. As you can see, my material is packing material, and I have already obtained 3 prices from 3 different vendors. Also, you can notice that I have this offer request information already assigned in here. As I mentioned before, the document flow going step by step and carrying all the information to the next step. So I create a requisition offer request, and by using this offer request, I generated some purchase information. When I go right, the system is displaying me the prices and the shipment conditions for my vendor. So what I know, I will purchase the quantity of 860 because the MRP told me so. And the unit price for each purchases is around these values. So on the next step, I will just show you a small report from the purchase interface. I will go back to my purchase module, and from the list of purchasing reports, I have a price comparison list. And when I click the price comparison list, I already saved my information in my purchase information data. So I will search for my product material in here, and with the help of that, I will list all the prices available for that vendor from the vendors which I already input into the system. So I can make a comparison list not only for the price. I have different options like the delivery time, vendor priority, or the vendor evaluation point. When you go with the quality module integrated with the purchase, you can make a periodic vendor evaluation, and with the results of that, the highest scored vendor can be listed on the top of the list. So the system is providing you some information which you can go with the purchase data. But I will not bother you right now with this vendor evaluation process or the data input. I will directly move to my purchase management, and I will show you the purchase order are generated into my system. I click listing, and I want to list the purchase order I already input into the system. And I will show you some details about this purchase order. When I go to details, the system is telling me that this purchase order is already closed for delivery, which means I generated and I already accepted the delivery note into my system. Also, on the top and right, I also see that my invoice has already been input into the system, which means the delivery and the invoice process has been finished. But I want to see the details of this purchase. So I click my product raw material and go to the item details. So I'm coming to the point which I mentioned at the beginning. I go to the follow-up to track my process during the MRP run and the sales. As you can see, this purchase has been done for that specific sales order. This was a sales order which we created, and I displayed you at the very first of our presentation screen. And this was the customer which was assigned to those purchase sales order. I can also track my internal order number, which is also a requisition number. So that means the system is carrying all the information to the next step each time I proceed. I also go to the development tab, and on the development tab, I can see my goods receipt, which means delivery note receipts into my system, and the invoices I already input into the system. And it's showing me that I have a material invoice plus a freight cost additional to my purchase. So at the point which it looks like I finished my purchase order, so I want to make an analysis if I purchased the material at the proper price or I don't. So as a purchase employee, I go back to my prep screen. I'm closing all my purchase order information, and from the invoice verification interface, I will list my purchase information. When I click it, I can see I've input some invoices into my system, and this is my freight invoice, and this is my material invoice. When I go to the details of my material invoice, I can see that the purchase order number has already been related with the invoice item. If you want to go with the more details, you can go inside the item and you can see the sales order and the purchase requisition, and the bottom line you can see the inventory document and the order document. Also, you have access directly to the purchase order, which you can also see the details without clicking any other button but this. So I have two invoices, and one of them is really important, material invoice. As I remember in the purchase information, my purchase price was 5.2 at the purchase order, but the invoice has arrived me with a different price. So I want to see those price variance from the screen. So as a purchase employee, I go back to my press screen, and using the verification module, I go to reports, and in the interface, I select invoice price difference control and invoice creation. So with the help of the interface, if I want, I can generate a purchase return invoice to my vendor. As you can see, the price is 5.27. So when I go right, I can see that I have a $60 extra charge regarding to my purchase order. So if I want, I can select this and create a return invoice to my vendor to minimize the purchase price variance. Or on the accounting side, I can just manage it in a different account and report it directly to my purchase manager. At the very final step, I would like to show you one more report, which we call it import cost and the purchase cost report by the purchase document. So I select my report and make a run, and as a result, I have my search criteria in here. So as you can see in here, I have my order information, vendor information, and the order price which I used. But when I go right, I can see the material invoices I input into the system. I can check if I have any additional cost as a freight, custom, or the insurance invoices. So when I go the very right, I can see the unit cost at my home currency, and if I report that in the exchange, a different currency as a foreign currency, I can see my results in US dollars. So thank you everyone for attending our presentation today, and this is my final presentation screen, and you can feel free to ask your questions in our question and answer session, and thank you for attending our webinar today.